What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Coach Black, your internet's relationship and breakup coach. Today's topic: when you stop caring, your ex starts caring. Now, the first thing I want to talk about in this video is why we're here in the first place. For the vast majority of you watching this, you're probably the one who got dumped. So naturally, there's feelings of being inadequate because most likely you didn't see this coming. And so you're having to deal with the loss of probably the most important person in your life. And most times that rocks your world. And most people don't really understand what you're going through. Trust me, I've been there. And I'll talk a little bit about that in this video. But so when you're going through this breakup process, a lot of times you have questions like, what is your ex feeling? And why did they do this? The largest thing that you need to understand is that most times breakups happen because of a loss in attraction over time. It is not something that happened instantly, regardless of what your ex is telling you. And sometimes they'll give you the works. They'll tell you they need to work on themselves. Sometimes they will be crying and shedding tears with you, expressing how hurt they are about the breakup. And most times it's confusing because it's like, if you're so hurt, why don't we stick it out? Why don't we make this work together? And so you have to get to a place where you see that your ex left because they lost attraction and feelings for you over time. And a lot of times what that looks like is over the span of the relationship, naturally things go wrong. Things happen. You get busy at work. Maybe one person is feeling neglected. And so in order to express that feeling of loss and neglect in the relationship, because you're still together, you may start coming off as a little bit desperate. You may start coming off as a little bit needy. And so you start trying too hard, trying to fix the relationship, trying to get it back to the way it was in the best of times. And a lot of times it's almost like your greatest fear and the thing you're trying to prevent is what ends up manifesting, in that you push your ex away because you're trying so hard and they end the relationship. And so your ex gets to a point where they start to see themselves as a little bit more attractive. This is not an intentional thing. It is just what happens through that breakup process of you trying so hard, begging, chasing, trying to fix the relationship. They start to feel like they are the catch. They are high and mighty. And you, on the other hand, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. And so learning not to care is the secret recipe that is going to even things out. It's going to move you up the ladder to a more attractive perspective in your ex's eye. And this has a lot to do with science. Now, let me explain. As human beings, we are wired for community. We are built with the desire to work together to accomplish our goals. If you look back, not even hundreds, but thousands of years ago, let's go to caveman days. It was pertinent that we work together so that we can kill the buffalo. We can scare away predators and protect our family. And this is why we always lived as community, in commune with one another. And so it is very easy and natural to feel when you're around someone when they do not like you or when they're expressing distance. But because of how we're wired biologically, our internal nature is always trying to close the gap with people, at least to close the gap with people that we consider as important to us. And so naturally, when you ignore someone, there's actually a pain biologically that this person is going to experience. This is the feeling of rejection, not being accepted by the community. And this pain tends to motivate us to take action, to try to close that gap, to explore what is going wrong. There's something in the pickup community known as negging. Negging is basically when a guy is attracted to a woman and he goes up to talk to her. And in the course of that conversation, he's getting to know her, he's talking to her, but he'll inject and say something slightly negative about her. Maybe about her appearance, about what she's wearing. And I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just telling you there's science and research behind negging. And seemingly saying something negative should appear to create more distance. It should appear to make two people not like each other. But what the research shows is that negging actually creates more attraction. And the woman is more drawn to this guy, apparently because being willing to offend people tends to correlate with a higher status in society. Meaning the higher up that totem pole you are amongst your peers, amongst people, you tend to be a little more brash. You tend to be a little more confident. And you're willing to do things that the average person maybe is not willing to do. So it comes off as, oh, he doesn't care. It's attractive. So scientifically, there is research that backs that if you pull away from your ex, if you ignore them, if you're willing for them to be upset with you because you're not talking to them, what is going on inside of their mind is panic and fear, but they will be more drawn to you on a biological level because they're wondering what happened to break the rapport. But let's just not stop at science. In my opinion, this is also spiritual. There's something called a Chinese finger trap. If you've ever seen this in movies, or you might have seen a picture, or maybe you've held one before, where you put, it's basically a tube, and you put your finger into both sides of the tube, and when you try to pull your finger apart, what happens is that those tubes actually tighten harder against your finger. So it's impossible to separate your fingers by pulling apart. The harder you try, the tighter the tubes get. But when you let go and you actually come together, it actually opens up and allows you to take your finger apart. Even besides science, on a spiritual level, the harder you try, the worse it gets, always. And the less you try, the less invested you are with your ex, the less you're trying to talk to them, trying to make sense of what they did, the more they will be drawn to you when you focus on yourself. I want to end this video with a quick story. See, a couple years ago, more than a couple now, I went through one of the hardest periods of my life. This was the disintegration of my marriage. It wasn't something I necessarily saw coming, even though we weren't necessarily happy all the time and playing and joking around. It was a decent friendship and relationship. I met my ex-wife when I was 18 years old. So we essentially grew up together. And as we were growing up together, as things happened and life happened, we got busy. We took the focus off of one another. We had a child, my daughter, and we started to neglect each other. And the relationship started to falter. Before long, we got to a point where it just wasn't feasible to go forward together. And this broke me. Because again, it wasn't something I expected. I didn't plan this. I didn't want this to happen. I always saw myself getting older with my ex and living a happy life. So as I was going through that process of divorce and trying to learn to pick up the pieces, I dove into books to learn about attraction, relationships, breakups. And that journey was eye-opening because I learned I didn't really know anything. I was just flying by the seat of my pants, making a lot of mistakes. And now, from a different perspective, it was understandable why my ex-wife left. So as I'm learning, I start dating again. I start putting myself back out there. And as I'm going through this process of growing from a relationship perspective, I started posting about it online on TikTok. I started posting about my breakup. I started posting about relationships and what I was learning about attraction. And before long, I started to gain traction and people wanted to talk to me. They wanted to find out what I knew and how I could help them in their relationship. And I started booking clients. And at the time, I was working a 9-to-5 job in technical sales, and that was keeping me busy. And so after work, I would take on clients and talking about their relationships and breakups. And at a certain point, I got to where I was stretched out too thin. I had a choice to make. I could go with my 9-to-5, be in something more stable, or I could follow my heart and my passion and where it was leading me. And it was a scary decision, but I knew where my heart was. And it wasn't about the money, because trust me, tech sales pays pretty well. But it was about love. It was about passion, about doing something I love and waking up each morning and being able to look in the mirror and feeling proud of what I had accomplished. And people were supporting that. So I decided to quit my job against all the advice of friends and family. And I started doing this full time. And I'm telling you, not even days after I quit my job, something went wrong with TikTok. And all of a sudden, just like this, I lost my account. Maybe someone tried to hack into it. I don't remember the details now. It's been a few years. And all of a sudden, I had no avenue to put out my content. I wasn't reaching anyone. And so from a place of fear, I was scrambling. I was calling numbers, emailing people, trying to get my account back. And it seemed like everything I was trying wasn't successful. And so I didn't have a choice really in the matter. I could try to go back to my old job, but that didn't seem like they would take me back just days later. Like I just quit. Or I could figure this thing out and stick with it. And so that's what I did. I started posting my videos on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. And before long, everything started growing and things were going better and better. And as soon as I forgot about TikTok and I said, hey, it just is what it is, I got my account back. TikTok grew to be my largest platform, and it still is till today. And so it's almost like from a spiritual perspective, when I let go and I accepted that I couldn't do anything about this TikTok thing and it was just going to do its thing, everything started to work out for the better. And this is the same thing that happens with your ex, regardless of what you're going through right now, regardless of what you're feeling and how hopeless you may be. If you can learn to let go from a science and an attraction perspective, you will make progress, but especially from a spiritual perspective. And I'm not sure what you believe in, but I do believe we are all made in the image and likeness of God. You are a very reflection and a piece of God. So anything you touch will turn to something worthwhile if you believe it. And that's what I want to leave you with today. No matter what your ex is saying right now, focus on yourself. Focus on your growth. Focus on your mission and your purpose. And this will turn around. Whether you attract your ex back, which a lot of time does happen and did happen in my case, or you will move on and find someone better. Anyway, if you appreciate the content, please do me a favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the future videos that I put out. If you haven't already, click the link in the description if you want to talk to me about your situation and your breakup. It'll truly be a blessing to talk to you and try to help you navigate what you're going through. If you haven't already, again, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.